Oh, R.I.P. my wallet. There's a massive leak. There's water on the floor. The ceiling is damaged. Is our entire house being held together by tuck tape and Tyvek? I'm not gonna say yes, but I'm also not gonna say no. Oh wow.
Sill plate that became
a root ball. Hello friends and welcome to Nova Scotia. I'm Shannon Makes, renovation warrior by day, circus artist by night, and 2 years ago I changed my life forever when I bought this charming yet dilapidated Victorian duplex sight unseen, risking my entire life savings on a lifelong dream to renovate and restore a glorious old home. I found this Victorian charmer online, and with nothing more than a single virtual tour and an inspection report the size of a Jane Austen novel, I uprooted my entire life to move to a city I'd never heard of, in a province I'd never visited. It's easy to see why I fell in love with this beauty. She's a grand old home with many of her original features intact, plus she came with oodles and oodles of antiques left by the previous owners. But like all of us, she also came with her fair share of baggage, including a leaky roof, a crumbling foundation, and a flooded basement. What she didn't come with, running water, power, or a functioning heating system. So we spent year one emptying the house, drying the basement, sorting through the antiques, and installing some new heating, all in between contracts of course, and this year we're still very much in triage mode. So join me, Kennel the Corgi, and renovation partner in crime Phil, as we return to the house after a winter away and settle into a long year of hard work. We started off our second year in the house, not with a bang, but with a leak. It is our first day back in the house. It is still heated. That was the good news. The not so good news, please note, our system has detected continuous consumption of water at the property whose bill is attached to this letter. Let me remind you, the property is this one, the owner is me, and that there has been continuous consumption over the last few months in this house where there was no one living. And the pipes aren't the only thing leaking around here. These windows are stunning and they're absolutely giant, and we will definitely be keeping them and restoring them. But in the meantime, they're super leaky, and adding the plastic helps keep out the cold Canadian drafts. We can say it's working because a lot of the plastic, especially the ones that are obviously not quite as airtight, are slightly pressurized. Also, fun fact, discovered something I hadn't noticed before, and that is that we have a little graffiti artist here, a previous resident, I'm assuming, did some artwork, shall we say, on the glass of one of our windows. Reba Greeno. If you could stop keying our windows, Reba, that'd be great. We'd appreciate it. While we had the plastic out, it was a good time to use the thermal camera to detect other, less obvious leaks.
Everything is getting sucked down there, and you can see the massive hot spot on the wall. And the rest of the room here, the heat is pretty even. And then you arrive there, and it's a big sinkhole. So that's the repair job we did, and let's see the results. Much better. This is just the heat coming up from the baseboard, but the rest of this section looks way more even. I just found that piece of wood on the ground. This is one of the storm window. You're supposed to put them during the winter. The actual house window is behind you. This piece was just on the ground right here. Seems to be pretty solid. Yeah, I think it's gonna survive the winter there. But yeah, just falling apart. And same thing on this window here. The foundation here kind of collapsed, so that this whole corner fell down. We need to deal with that in the summer. Where you can see like all of this here. This window is absolutely shut.
With the house a bit more leak-proof, we moved on to installing the heating on the second floor, which meant that first we had to remove all the old exploded cast iron pipes from the previous heating system. And while we were messing around in all the plumbing, we also happened to find the source of our leak. Pretty sure we managed to find the water leak. So let's go down in the basement and I'll tell you all about it.
So this was installed this summer and we were away for like 2 months.
Our system has detected continuous consumption of water.
That's how it is now. So we need somebody to come and fix this.
As it turns out, someone was Phil himself. With that solved, it was time for some fun. Today is bathroom demolition day. Our only working bathroom in the house is right on the other side of this wall. We need to move that upstairs. We're gonna put it straight above us. Let's start knocking down walls.
A little bit clogged, maybe.
That's disgusting.
Don't know how to undo this because it doesn't pass. Both corners here exploded. Poop!
The first plumber I had in here before we bought the house said he had never seen a radiator explode with such force.
So if you remember, on day one we had the lovely surprise of having water dripping all the way down the kitchen floor.
Well, it's day one and it is already hitting the fan because we have a lovely leak.
And we found the source. The washer line here just popped out because of the frost. So every time we would open the sink in the bathroom downstairs, it would backflow in the old piping and just spray completely out in the ceiling. So this little fella was spitting the water in the kitchen on day one.
This is what's under the layer that's under the stairs. Huh. Next up, Phil has got a bee in his bonnet that he really wants to get rid of the chimney. This may seem like it's a bit irrelevant, and in a way it is, but we did need to get rid of the chimney eventually, and it does run through the middle of the bathroom, so now seemed as good a time as any for some good old demolition.
This might have been outside before the roof was completed. That's flashing all around. And this is tar paper here.
Start taking all the bricks off. We don't know where we're gonna put them yet. Defenestration. But Phil really wants them gone, so. Now, if you just watched me open that window and thought, oh my goodness, that is so cool, I have never seen a pocket window before. First of all, welcome to the club. I hadn't either before I got this house. But secondly, that means you haven't gone back and watched the old house episodes. Maybe you just found my channel recently in the new year, but whatever the case, I highly recommend going back and watching them, getting caught up on all the progress that we've made here at the house, because you'll also learn a lot about the many cool features of this house, like those pocket windows. We already have so little time at the house and so much to get done that it feels like we are constantly scrambling, looking for more hours in the day. Plus, you know, we're athletes, we like to eat healthy and watch what we are putting into our bodies. So keeping ourselves fed and fueled on the renovation has been a legitimate struggle, and that is why I am thrilled that this video sponsor is Factor, because their healthy, ready-to-eat meals have literally revolutionized our renovation process at the house. It sounds so corny, and yet it is actually completely true. I discovered their service almost exactly a year ago, and we have been genuine paying customers ever since. I've got the receipts to prove it, but that means that I've tried all of their meals. I've seen their menu expand. It now includes over 100 rotating weekly options, and still, 1 year later, I am a giant fan of their fresh, never frozen meals. Recently, I noticed they added a lot more seafood options. They've also got a lot more salad and grain bowl options. You can choose meals based on various dietary goals or filters, and they're all made without refined seed oils, refined sugars, no artificial colors, no sweeteners. So I feel great putting it in my body, and I feel great recommending their service. So whether you're looking for just a simple way to delicious yet balanced nutrition, or maybe you have a busy life and you want great meals with unmatched convenience, Factor meals are a great option for you. So if you want to give it a try, you can head to factor75.com, or you can click the link below and you can use code MAKESFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code MAKESFB50 at factor75.com to get 50% off, plus free breakfast for 1 year. Outside, the snow was falling, and inside, the work continued, carefully opening up the bathroom floor, saving all the original wood, of course, in order to have proper access for running all the plumbing. So bad.
This beam has been completely removed to accommodate the toilet placement. So there's nothing left basically for the floor. This makes no sense.
With the bathroom at a convenient stopping point, we moved on to the rest of the house. Now, we'd already tackled the first floor heating system last year, but the second floor is always a bit trickier to heat because you have to find clever ways to pass the pipes, so it was time to get creative.
Wow, that is a big hole. Holy shit.
Yeah, I told you, it's huge. We accidentally opened a door to another dimension because you can see this massive cavern inside between the two walls where the chimney is. That was a very unexpected discovery of the day, so pretty cool. And now for your viewing pleasure, 2 weeks of plumbing in 2 minutes. We've come to the moment of truth here because if we can't get this floor up, it's all screwed.
long pegs to the bottom and then copper to the top. And then we'll have heat upstairs.
In half.
A bit more.
I heard a very suspicious sound that sounded like a lot of water leaking inside, and so sure enough, there's a massive leak. There's water on the floor. The ceiling is damaged. So we're gonna go up in the attic and figure out where it's coming from. We're gonna get a bucket under here to stop the water, and then we're gonna probably throw some money at the problem later. R.I.P. my wallet.
I mean, the fact that you can see daylight.
Wow, that is a constant drip.
Yeah, the whole stack here is wet. It comes from there, you know?
Yeah, I guess. Oh, I just saw a drip.
Yeah, it's dripping there.
So the short-term solution that worked super well was stapling some towels to the roof boards in between the planks and using them to funnel the water into a variety of bins, buckets, and tubs. Oh, the house that keeps on giving.
It's expected with, you know, with a roof that you can touch. First thing is the shingle, you know? No wonder we have leaks.
Fine. Then we called a roofing company to come give us an estimate on how much a repair would cost, and the price tag, roughly $1,500. So instead we decided to do it ourselves. While waiting for the proper fall protection equipment to arrive, we moved on to the hurricane room, so named because it was the room that had been significantly damaged in Hurricane Fiona before I bought the place. This was another room that needed tons of work, and now seemed like a great time to start. One lead paint test later, and it was masks on for the rest of the teardown, but things were about to get exciting. Our safety equipment had arrived and was up on the roof to make some repairs.
I am now down on the first ridge. Looks like there's a full shingle missing. Here you can actually see the wood. It's completely ripped apart. Under here is still wet from the water going in here and leaking in the roof. I just need to put a shingle here. Floink! And it's gonna be a good start.
So with me to cut the shingles to shape and Phil to install them, the repairs went relatively fast. Although it was clear we were gonna need a whole new roof sooner rather than later. That is one sad looking roof valley. It is just begging to be changed. From the roof to the basement though, because next up was digging an interior French drain. When I bought the house, there were several inches of standing water in the basement, due in large part to the hill that the house sits at the bottom of, and the lack of proper grading or any sort of drainage system. So an interior French drain seemed like the obvious solution. Step 1, dig the trench. And because remember that this is a duplex and it has two sides, everything we did on one half of the basement had to be repeated on the other half. Step 2, fill the trench. So first we lined everything with a nice wide layer of geotextile fabric. Then we could insert our perf pipe and add all the necessary junctions. Come papa da mama.
Slap it.
Nice.
Again.
And here's an overview of the entire thing now that it's fully piped. It runs along the entire back wall, under the brick wall between the two halves of the house. It stops short of that questionable section of foundation wall, and then here at the T intersection, it runs straight down to the sub pump at the front of the house. Then a generous load of trois quarts net was delivered and hauled downstairs to be added to the drainage system. A quick test of the system showed that everything was working properly, so we could close it up, first folding over the fabric, then laying down some Delta board as well as a small amount of vapor barrier and covering the whole thing over with some concrete. This was a couple days of some hard labor, but it was absolutely worth it because in the end it was looking fantastic and there was only one critical step left to take.
So about here? Yeah, okay.
Good dog.
With the drain finished, it was back up into the now dry attic to do a bit more insulation work, which always leads to a lot of fun discoveries, including some giant cut nails, old Tupperwares, tons of oak parquet flooring, and the old fireplace surround that was torn out of one of the dining rooms. Oh wow, it's like a marbled something or other. Wow, it's really pretty. That's not all of it either. Like I said in the intro, the house came jam-packed with antiques and trash, and I had lots of fun sorting through it all. Some questions were answered, like why I had industrial amounts of antenna up here, but many, many more were raised. Oh my god, is it a baby zebra? Do I have a ship sail in my attic? Why a pram? Why my attic? Why me? The missing piece to the poop chair. Then it was time for the first new character on the channel, Phil's father, Jean. He had originally come out to help us regrade the backyard, but already on day one, we had a bit of a detour. Well, I guess that's what we're doing today.
Yep.
So obviously this section of the house was not in great shape, and we had intended to get to it once the weather was a bit nicer, but strap in because I guess we're tackling it now.
on fait ça aujourd'hui, bon, on va faire ça aujourd'hui.
Between the flimsy vinyl siding, the broken glass, the rotten window, a sill plate that's been compared to a bag of Funyuns, and a building foundation with spray foam for mortar, it didn't take very long to tear this all down and start building it up again, starting with the foundation. The old sill plate was removed, with a moment of appreciation for the stunning craftsmanship and joinery that went into the construction of this joint, and was probably a large reason that this front section remained attached to the rest of the house while the foundation slowly fell out from underneath it. Then it was on to a new sill plate, shaped with modern tools, but still carefully crafted to join up with the existing structure. From there, the rest was a breeze, framing out a new wall and temporarily covering it with some OSB and house wrap until a later date when we tackle the siding of the entire house. After that unexpected pit stop in our renovation road trip, we shifted into full gear and tackled the main problem at hand, the backyard and the grading. I kind of want to show you the hill that is causing all the problems. And I'm looking at it on camera and it really doesn't look like that much of a hill. This is their ground level. Then it drops down about 4 feet or so to the street level. Then there's another roughly 4 feet drop to the high section of our yard. And then there's about 6 or 7 feet drop down to the low section of our yard. And then ideally, we would be able to see at least 3 or 4 inches of foundation right here. But if we go and look close, we can see there's no foundation. In fact, there's actually more siding. There's at least 2 more strips of siding that have been buried from 120 years of dirt just coming with gravity and rain and everything into our yard and piling up here. So we consulted the expert, rented the largest excavator we could find, and got to work. And by we, I mostly mean Jean, because he's doing all the heavy lifting here. Quite literally. He started off with tackling all the tree stumps that were gently kissing our foundation. So when I bought the house, there were several trees growing all around it, and literally in our foundation in some cases.
Oh my god.
I highly recommend watching the year 1 time-lapse for more details on those shenanigans. And we'd cut all the trees down, but the trunks were still left in the ground. And fortunately, Jean's delicate touch was able to remove almost all of them without too much trouble. Shockingly, there was only one trunk that still had roots in our foundation, and that one was definitely a pain to remove, and it did take some of our foundation with it, but in the end, it was no match for Jean and his trusty orange steed. All those stumps were a mere appetizer for the excavator, and with them out of the way, it was time to move on to the main course, the backyard. Hillsides are hard to grade properly, and the solution we settled on was to remove a couple feet of soil from the back of the house, exposing the sill plate and letting the water run away from the house, and then building a series of retaining walls to hold the rest of the soil firmly locked in place, hopefully for at least the next century. Once the majority of the soil was removed, we ordered several tons of beautiful stones from the local quarry, and the walls started to take shape. Once again, the Canadian spring was messing with us, and this time when the snow melted, it turned our backyard into a mud pit, making it incredibly hard for Jean to work the excavator. We started adding an exterior French drain, just another line of defense in the battle to keep the water on the outside of our house. We also decided to fill the entire lower section of the backyard with gravel for draining, figuring we would eventually add a long deck across the whole length of the house and keep the landscaping and plants on the upper tiers. Jean used the excavator to quickly and roughly distribute the bulk of the gravel around the yard, and then Phil and I would go in and fine-tune it by hand with the rake and the shovel. And because the clay underneath is graded to the proper pitch, it doesn't actually matter if the gravel layer on top is perfect or even or level, it just has to look okay. Then the French drain was continued around to the front of a house, with a few little junctions here and there to catch the water from the gutters as well. Yet one more step in trying to manage the water flow in our soggy province. The same process happened on the other side of the house, except this time we knew that the sill plate needed to be replaced, so Jean excavated right up next to the house, which allowed me to climb into the crawl space through this whopping hole in the foundation. This was quite the adventure. I found shoes, so many shoes. I found animal burrows. Definitely something living in there. There were rocks, bottles, cans, chunks of wood, old pipes, bricks. You name it, it can probably be found under this part of the house. Back out in the sunlight, the French drain was finished up on the other side of the house with inlets to accept 2 gutters and the discharge from the sub pump. A significant improvement over the current setup. Another significant improvement, an actual heavy-duty pump.
One pump to rule them all.
Except that we didn't only use one pump in the system, we have redundancies.
Some pump. So this one works even with no power, even when the zombie comes.
Doesn't look like anything's leaking. Woo!
With the backyard as good as it was going to get, we turned our attention inside, where we had one last task for the excavator. When I bought the place, the basement was full of several generations of heating systems. There were boilers, furnaces, heating units, and pipes everywhere you turned, including this behemoth that we took to calling
the Crucible.
Now, the excavator couldn't help us get it out of the basement, but it could help us get it from the house into a truck bed so that we could then take it to the scrapyard. in all, we removed 4 metric tons of metal from our basement. That's nearly 9,000 pounds of steel that was just rusting away down there. Then Jean went back to Montreal and we started rebuilding the front bay window foundation, a process that would have been much more enjoyable if the weather was a bit warmer. So why didn't we just wait a bit? Well, we were on a firm deadline because we had a summer contract in Norway that took us away from the house for a few months. A beautiful and incredibly enjoyable break, and then it was back to the house just in time for some lovely autumn colors. We already knew that the sill plate needed to be changed, so right away we set to work removing the bottom courses of siding in order to have better access. Once we removed all the blown-in insulation, we got a much better view not only of the sill plate, but also some very questionable structural repairs that had been done in the past. Exploration continued, trying to track down the source of a bulge in the wall up higher, which it turns out was just due to water damage in the various siding layers.
Yeah, so like check this out right here. It's all like, especially right here. Oh, wow.
Let's
yeah,
investigate.
see? Oh. What on earth?
So I am currently removing the siding here. And I just found a little detail. So that's the aluminum asphalt shingle. And when they installed the asphalt shingle, they actually went around the original molding profile. So the molding itself is gone, but you can see what it used to look like.
Looks like our house used to be brown.
Now, because houses are entire systems and nothing is ever isolated, changing out the sill plate also meant changing out the rotted portion of this corner post, which then meant opening up the sheathing along the side. So Phil set to work setting up the jack post, while I set to work on the opposite corner. The new sills were cut to length and given matching half laps. The questionable framing was repaired and or replaced, sistering in lengths of new wood where needed. Then we could remove the main sill plate and marvel at just how little was left of it.
Look at how thin it is here. It's like almost paper thin.
With the old sill gone, we had plenty of room to install the new sill and make some last little touches to the framing. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Canadian winters can be cold.
It's so cold in here, I can see my breath.
So we spent the next few days insulating the house, plugging the freshly exposed stud bays with some rock wool to try and keep our house warm and our heating bill at least a tiny bit lower. The freshly insulated wall could then be closed up, once again using OSB and Tyvek as a cheaper temporary alternative until we fully address the outside situation of the house for real. It felt somewhat fitting as we were approaching the holiday season to be essentially gift wrapping our house. We thought the process was so effective actually that we decided to open up the bottom portion of the remaining 2 walls of that kitchen extension to do the same thing. Open, inspect, repair, weatherproof, and insulate, then close it back up. Now, not shockingly, this revealed some questionable repairs that had been done in the past and another sill plate that was wildly eroded and no longer level, along with a ton of damage to the subfloor where an uncapped sewage pipe had been left to spew humid air and poopy fumes for God knows how many years. So Phil worked on a temporary patch for the rotten floor, while I did some makeshift draft protection, as well as insulating the whole back wall. We were really feeling the rush against the clock here. We had only a couple days left before we once again had to fly out to Europe for a Christmas contract, so it was a lot of long days and working into the wee hours. And with literally 1 day left, we opened up the worst wall yet. This one had so much water damage that the entire windowsill was basically held up with spray foam, and the original siding was more sawdust than plank. But we just kept working and problem solving, and we managed to get the house closed up with just a few hours to spare.
Is our entire house being held together by tuck tape and Tyvek? I'm not gonna say yes, but I'm also not gonna say no.
Now, if you're into house renovations that respect the history of the house, hard work, cute corgis, creative problem solving with a healthy dose of acrobatics, and the occasional antique haul, I invite you to subscribe and come along for the adventure. It's been a wild ride so far. We've had a ton of fun, and this next year is gonna be even better. We've got more sill plates to replace, and it's gonna take every last brain cell to do so. We've got foundations to rebuild, history to uncover, and so much more. So click that subscribe button, and while you wait for the next video to come out, may I suggest going back to the very beginning with my year 1 time-lapse video, which should be available on screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a lovely, healthy, and mentally stable new year. People will be angry either way.
Yeah.